Hi there everybody, Dave here from HeyUGuys, and today I'm joined by the wonderful Stefanovic Papovic,
Hello there.
Paul of the Heath from all the way from Hollywood. Can you hear us?
Hello, hello. Yes, it's getting tired now. Stop that.
Sorry, and Scotticus David Gibbs, which never works.
Well, that never works. Hello.
Hello. And today we are going to be talking about Alien Covenant. We all saw it last week. Embargo's dropped at 4:45 a.m. yesterday morning. Obviously, none of us were awake. Actually, I think I was, but I couldn't get anyone to do a recording, so we've done it the next day instead. Stefan, do you want to start off by telling us what it's about and how it connects to its prequel or sequel or whatever it is in the universe?
Yeah, so this is a sequel to Prometheus, and therefore another prequel to the original 1979 Ridley Scott's Alien, and this is narratively speaking, it actually sits quite comfortably in between the two, but also works as a sort of standalone feature. So the premise to this is that Covenant is the name of a kind of colony ship, which is on its way to a new planet to kind of kickstart mankind. But along the way, it finds itself in a kind of a new territory that hadn't quite envisaged it would encounter, and what and originally the crew perceived it to be a sort of a paradise of sorts. But after let's say a sort of crash landing, they lose their captain, played by James Franco, and then the remaining members of the ship. So that's the new captain Oram, played by Billy Crudup, and then you've got Daniels, played by Catherine Waterston. There's quite a few of them, but also the other notable member is the new android Walter, played by Michael Fassbender again. They have to try and kind of come to terms with their new environment, which obviously is inhabited by aliens, which is kind of anticipated. And then the whole kind of film is a bit of a survival flick as they're kind of trying to hope and pray that the pilot Tennessee, played by Danny McBride, will come to their rescue.
I mean, it's obviously an Alien movie, it's Ridley Scott, so we all expect great things. Now, Eve, you told me last week you hated it. I thought you were being truthful. Turns out you weren't. What did you think?
Well, I've got a slight admission to make first. I only saw Prometheus for the first time last Saturday night, so I was quite fresh from that. When Prometheus came out, there was very mixed reviews, and I sat on the fence with that one. I didn't know quite what to think of it, and I got what he was trying to do, which is obviously build this new sort of origin story and trying to be a little bit different. So, but I thought it was a little uneventful as well. And I think Covenants builds upon what Ridley Scott started to do in Prometheus, but also tried to give fans a bit of an Alien film as well, which I didn't think he did with Prometheus, obviously. So I think the balance is quite good with the new one, and I think there's enough scares. I thought there was enough nods to the original without being completely carbon copy-ish. The only thing, it wasn't quite as intense as I thought it would be. That was probably why I was initially let down a little bit. But after thinking about it, it's one of those films you walk away from, you start to think about, he's trying to build this big universe and lead us up until that iconic first film. If he went and duplicated Alien and gave us exactly the same, we'd be hating it even more than we perhaps would be without. Do you know what I mean? And I thought my initial sort of reaction was, I was expecting something a little bit different, but actually it's very, very good. And I thought the cast were excellent in this, particularly Billy Crudup, who's quite a big role actually, as does obviously Michael Fassbender, who I think is, to be honest, it's his film. So and I loved watching him in pretty much every scene, playing the two characters. There's a great new twist on David towards the end, which obviously was hinted at in the last film. And actually, it's one of those films where I've been thinking about it ever since I saw it, and since then probably grown to love it a little bit more than I initially did. So I didn't hate it when I first saw it. I was exaggerating. As I said, it's grown on me in the days since, but that's kind of my initial reaction.
No, because if you look at this photo here, a lot of the cast you may recognise, but a lot of them you don't, or at least you might not if you're not an Australian, because they shot it in, I think, New Zealand and a lot in Australia. So half the cast in that photo there is Australian, and even like Danny McBride's in there, and I was quite surprised when he was cast in this movie because I wasn't sure how he'd fit, but I thought he was great in it. But Scott, what did you think of the movie overall?
I came out very disappointed actually. I was hoping, kind of similar to what Paul was saying about the fact that it's it's very similar to some of the Alien movies, but he tries to do something different. I found that it was very much to type in terms of an Alien movie. I was expecting something a little bit different, something a little bit fresh with some new ideas, and obviously having the Alien elements in there. But I just thought it very much stuck to type, which we've seen 5 or 6 times, and that kind of frustrated me. It's a long thing with this franchise that anytime someone tries to do a little bit different, particularly when you look at, say, like Alien 3 and Alien 4, the writers that have come on board have tried to kind of stretch it out and give it some new impetus and give it some fresh ideas. You know, Vincent Price had this great idea about this wooden world that they were going to do for Alien 3, which then slowly but surely went back to type. And I think this one does exactly the same. I think as much as Ridley Scott wants to make his kind of movie with, you know, obviously with Prometheus it was much more science based and everything else. This one seems like he was trying to do that, but then 20th Century Fox have said, well, we need to have aliens in there, we need to have, you know, corridors and all these things that we've seen before, because they're all the hallmarks, and that frustrated me. And I found it, you know, in places it was very good. So Danny McBride was great, and Fassbender is absolutely ace in both roles. But apart from that, I thought Catherine Waterstone was a bit wasted. I don't think she had a whole hell of a lot to do. And then just as the film goes on, it just goes back to formula, and I found that quite frustrating, if I'm honest. So I was kind of in the middle. There was some good scares. You know, there's a lot of the audience that we saw at the premiere were very, very scared in places. But for me, it just didn't quite have a kind of distinctive feel to it, which I hoped it would have. You know, that was similar to Aliens, but would also have some new stuff to it. I thought, sadly, it became quite tiresome because it stuck to the formula, which is great. You know, the formula's great, but you know, after 6 movies, I kind of wanted something a little bit different.
I wasn't in some of the interviews, because Scott and I did the premiere last Thursday just before we saw it, and we spoke to Ridley Scott, and he was saying about how it's going to be one of the scariest films you've ever seen, and the Alien is actually the scariest thing you've ever seen on film. And I was like, well, you know, how do you... I didn't find the film that scary. What did you think, Stefan?
Well, yeah, I thought it had a really kind of a tone to it, quite an uncomfortable kind of atmosphere the whole way through the film, and I thought the whole kind of aesthetic of this kind of new paradise that they kind of encounter. I love the look of it, but I don't think I can recall feeling that scared. I think it was quite tense. I think it was quite uncomfortable for the most part, but I don't think it was that scary. I actually don't think it was the aliens that I fear. I think that one of the great kind of character creations in the whole of the Alien franchise is any droid, because droids are so elusive in this franchise. You know, you never know who you can trust and who you can't. And David was like that in the last movie, and this film just naturally, not to give away any spoilers, but the second you meet Walter and the second you re-encounter David, you just think, do I trust this guy? Is this guy? Because you don't know how they've been programmed. And so for me, I actually think that the more of the kind of anxiety derived from Michael Fassbender, who was so good. I mean, we've sort of touched upon it already, but I mean, you could tell. I mean, there's one point where obviously David and Walter look exactly the same, but you can tell within about a second who he's playing just from the slightest subtle glance in his face. You just know which of the android he is, which is kind of incredible. And also he just I don't know, he really encapsulates that sense of ambiguity where you just never know if you can trust him. So I actually think he, for me, felt like I don't know, I felt more the fear derived from the unknown rather than the actual creatures itself, which I actually think we were slightly overexposed to in this movie.
My biggest disappointment from the film was the fact that GoPros are still exactly the same size in 100 years than they are now. I'm slightly disappointed about that. I was hoping they'd be built into my head to get some quality stuff, but no, they're still exactly the same, and so that was a shame. So Paul, for you, what was the standout sort of moments or things in the movie that you loved the most?
So I love seeing the Xenomorph back on screen. I was a little bit late. I was just touched on it a minute ago, where the CGI. I mean, there wasn't a lot of that in the early films, and I think when the practical effects were used, that was a highlight in this film. But they do use a lot of CGI, and I think that maybe it lets itself down a little bit when you see that Xenomorph is in the trailer. So you know, when he jumps on the spaceship taking off, I thought, yeah, okay, you know, it seemed a bit Alien versus Predator-ish. You know, it felt a bit cheap. But all the practical stuff, like there's an image on screen now. That thing was, I think, there's a bloke playing that. What's this thing called? This white thing?
An alien.
An alien, right? That alien there. That moment was pretty scary for me. I thought, I can hear Stefan laughing.
I don't know what it's called. Gary? I don't know.
Right, let's call him Gary. Gary the white alien. I mean, look, he's eating someone's face off there. Yeah. I mean, that's a particularly standout thing. But I think the standout for me is absolutely Fassbender. It's, as I said,
I like the fact you call him Fassbender. Surely it's Fassbender, isn't it?
Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender.
You're not a northerner, though.
Does it matter? Listen, I'm from Gloucestershire, mate. We say things different down there.
A bit north.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just
Anyway, yeah,
a long
but
way west.
I'm a long way from home.
You are. Stefan, what was your highlight?
I think I liked. I mean, it felt like an Alien movie, which was good. I did like Prometheus, but Prometheus I thought was a bit ambitious from a story point of view, and I think that this took it back to basics a bit. And I really liked how simplistic it was. I quite liked how you could strip it of all of its kind of plot devices, and it does become a kind of survival horror flick in some ways, which I quite liked. I thought that Prometheus had too much going on, so I enjoyed how it kind of tied in more closely to Alien than it did to Prometheus. But I think it just. So I know you asked me what I liked, but I'm just about to tell you something I didn't like because that's I'm Monday morning. But I just felt that it was just lacking a protagonist. That was my biggest thing. I felt like it really needed a hero to kind of carry that emotional kind of burden of the audience, and just hadn't, because I mean, like I just said, because it is a kind of survival flick, and therefore the whole point of this movie is you want them all to stay alive. The stakes aren't high enough that it's like the whole of kind of this whole planet is dependent on. No, it's just this crew. You care about this crew's survival, and I just don't think enough backstory was given to any one particular character, and we didn't have a clear hero. I guess Catherine Waterston was the closest we got, but we didn't really have a clear kind of hero to carry the whole movie, and that was a bit of a shame for me. But I thought what I did most enjoy about it was just the kind of the feeling of it. I thought Ridley Scott is such a fantastic kind of storyteller, and I think he just knows how to play with the audience's perceptions, and he just it just had a really great tone and atmosphere, and I loved how it tied into both franchises without feeling too contrived in either sense, in my opinion. So that bit I did like. I just felt it emotionally. I was left a little bit wanting.
And last year the year before, we had The Martian, which is another Ridley Scott film, which I think is possibly one of my favourite films ever. Is it time for Alien to end and for original movies like The Martian to be made? What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I think with my frustration with this one, I think as much as I love the Alien franchise, it does. I don't know how much longer it can go on for. He said that there's going to be at least 2 more movies, which is kind of weird. I don't know where 2 more movies come from. For me, I mean, the series rests on the first 2 movies. I think they're fantastic, and if there's going to be another movie, I think the next movie, I guess logically, would be some sort of Planet of the Aliens kind of thing. But that's always been muted and always been deemed too expensive. So maybe that's something. But I think, for me personally, I think if you include the Alien versus Predators as well, we've had 7, 8 movies now. If they're going to make another one, it needs to be something quite drastically different. Otherwise, I think it's maybe time to leave it rest for a little while, in my opinion anyway.
I guess it's understandable for someone like Ridley Scott, who just loves this franchise. It was his baby. It's been now going for almost 40 years, I think, since the first film. He's given Blade Runner away. He's still producing, but I think Alien is one that he's struggling to sort of give up, just because he's done that before, and I guess that you can't argue that James Cameron did a bad job, but maybe the others he wasn't so pleased with, so maybe he just wants to stick with it.
Isn't he 80?
Yeah.
He's like 80 years old as well, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's incredible. He's got so much like energy as well. Like I'm sure when you guys interviewed him last week,
he's 79 years old.
But I might be wrong, so this might be rubbish. But isn't he going to do one more Alien film? Like, isn't it like a trilogy of prequels he's doing before the Alien film? So it's Prometheus, Covenant, and then one more. Have I made that up? I could have made that up.
2 more.
I'd read there's 2 more.
Cool.
So whether
there you go.
You want the up-to-date news? Just come here, and we're not sure ever.
Come to HeyUGuys for the latest news.
Yeah, news in inverted commas, potential maybe news. But you look at Ridley Scott, who's 79. Clint Eastwood must be older than that. He is 86. And didn't he make Sully made last year, didn't he? So these guys who've been around forever and they're absolute legends, they're still making these absolutely fantastic movies at an age that's, they should really be sitting in an armchair having a cup of tea. But I hope I'm still as active as they are. I'm not sure I'll be directing Hollywood $200 million movies, but
they should do a crossover movie between Sully and Alien, and it would be a bit boring because he just land the ship in a much easier place and on a better island.
It's definitely worth going. I think it's a worthy instalment. I think fans are going to like out of it. I liked it. I really liked it.
Yeah, I did like. I was just saying. I mean, obviously, I've been quite critical. I feel like because it's been getting kind of 5-star reviews and I went 3, I feel like I have to kind of justify why I gave it 3. So therefore, highlight the kind of negative points. But I did really enjoy it, and it was a kind of toss up between 3 and 4 stars. I did. This is a good movie. I think I just had a few doubts and reservations. That's all.
Cool. So that's our thoughts on Alien Covenant. Do let us know once you've seen it what you think of it. If you've got any questions, bosh them in the comment section below. As always, you can subscribe to all of the different channels. I don't think I said. I did say Paul is from the Hollywood News at thehollywoodnews.com. So make sure you check that out. It's almost
Shut up,
you guys. We will look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Bye.
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 Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey,